when we entered the playoffs, I said it was very difficult to get here. And to win a division is even more difficult. So congratulations on that. We still got some work to do, though. Okay, we still got some work to do. We want to get that pot. It's very important to us. So I want you guys to party tonight, but be ready to come here and play them.
Welcome to episode 126 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, bringing you an action-packed show, as always, with the typical lineup. We're going to discuss Phillies. They finally clinched the bye, as we've been talking about for so long. Recap the Birds, talk about the Eagles' next upcoming game, and then we'll go into our picks. As always, I got Jason Sayeda.
Hey, Tom, what's up?
Jason, what's going on? I got Jimmy the Chalk.
Hello, hello.
And I got Meeker, who I don't know if he's happy or that his team won or sad that his team lost. So I'm a little confused.
What's up?
What's up, me? All right. Before we jump into our Phillies talk, this episode is sponsored by Giovannina's Pizza. You tried the rest. Now try the best. Still all NFL season, NFL Sundays. Go online, type in Broad Street Hustle in that coupon code to get a buy one, get one free exclusively at Giovannina's Pizza. You've tried the rest. Now try the best. All right, jump into it. Jason, we bitched and moaned for the last, I don't know, 6 weeks, 7 weeks about the Phillies, and we talked about Walker. We bitched, they're blowing this, they're going to do that. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's exactly what we thought 2 months ago, that they did clinch the bye. You know, obviously first place is still up. Number one record is still up in the air. I don't know how much the Phillies actually care about that. Just listening to some of their stuff, I think they're going to kind of health and rest and like setting lineups and getting players back to health, where they want to be over the number one seed. But at the end of the day, they did clinch that all important bye that we spoke about. And then we were kind of talking offline a little bit about roster construction. So maybe jump into some Phillies thoughts, and if you want to bring up a little bit about the roster for the NLDS series, which I believe starts Saturday the 5th.
Yes.
So a week from Saturday. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like you said, they clinched the bye, and I kind of agree with you. I think from what I'm hearing, I think he's going to pitch Suarez and Wheeler and Nola, but maybe 5 innings for each of them. I mean, if Suarez makes 5 innings, but I don't think they're going to go hell bent to get the number one seed. They might fall into it. I mean, the Dodgers are playing the Rockies, who are out of it, but those teams that are out of it kind of play hard. Their last series.
The one thing, the Dodgers are like not necessarily not have clinched the division yet.
No, I mean, but they're up 3 now. I mean,
yeah,
there's a chance that they blow it, but I think they would have had to lose last night to blow it. I'm pretty confident they're going to win the division now. But so odds are, I think the Phillies will get the second seed, which is fine. They probably play the winner of the Brewers Mets / Diamondbacks / Braves series. Which hopefully for me, I would prefer them to play Milwaukee out of all those teams. Maybe the Mets. The Mets stink. I mean, they could beat the Mets, but I won't want to play the Braves and probably not Arizona. So it's going to be interesting, but we could sit back for a week now. Hopefully they don't kind of fall into the same trap that a lot of teams have fallen into of being off for that long and, starting off slow next series, and next thing you know, you're in trouble. So I don't know. We'll see. But, I'm happy they got the bye. We did mention kind of beforehand, before the show, we were talking about some rosters situation. So obviously it's a 26-man roster. For the NLDS, I heard they're going to have an even split of 13 pitchers and 13 hitters. But then moving forward, if they get to the NLCS and the World Series, they're going to go 14 pitchers and 12 hitters. So, I mean, just looking at it, we could start with the hitters because that's pretty. I guess it's pretty cut and dry up until you get to if you're going with 13 hitters, I guess it would be Wilson or Clemens would be the 13th guy. So, what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, one thing I'll say, and then I'll let the guys talk. How much will they use like the analytics as far as their opponent? So they played the Braves, they played the Mets, they played the Diamondbacks. Like, what has Wilson done against X amount of pitcher? What has Clemens done against X amount of pitcher? Or what, is one guy have a better left-hander, coming out of the bullpen? Like, would that factor in one of the
Yeah,
who
I
they
would I
really?
would think it would be bullpens. So I think you would look at the bullpens and see, like, does a team have and I don't know, maybe you guys know, like, who's loaded with lefties in the bullpen. If that's the case, maybe it's Wilson, right? Or if it's a right-handed dominated bullpen, maybe it's Clemens. So
Mhm.
I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's
What
what
do you
it'll break
guys?
down. I think that's what it comes down to. It's if you're gonna whoever your opponent ends up being, like you said, there's probably four possibilities out there. If they're lefty dominant, it's probably Wilson. If they're righty dominant, it's probably Clemens. I think Wilson might give you a little more versatility as far as the field, but you're hoping to not have to use these guys for any length of time in the field. So I think it's going to come down to which matchup they're more likely to get with the righty versus lefty, and that's where they'll. I like to see Clemens, but if it's all lefties, they're not going to pick him.
Yeah, and the other question is, is do you foresee, or Meeker, do you foresee one of those guys starting in a game? I mean, is like Wilson going to get a start, or is Clemens going to get a start, or are we strictly talking like a pinch hit situation?
Well, I think that now that Austin Hayes is back, I think it's more of a pinch hit situation. If he wasn't back, then sure, then you want to start a Wilson against a left-hander or a Clemens. Well, I guess you wouldn't do that. I mean, left-hander, you're going to play Rojas in center field because you like his defense, right? So you would start Wilson perhaps in left field, and Marsh comes off the bench when they bring in a right-handed pitcher if a lefty's starting. So I think with Hayes coming back, it's just your choice, like we were talking about for the last 5 minutes. Who you playing, what's their staff look like? Do you foresee like a spot where a Clemens or a Wilson, depending on their bullpen pitchers, can come in and pinch it for a Rojas, or come in and pitch it for a Marsh, basically, right? So that's what they're going to do, I'm sure. And like you said, Jason, they're going to switch that and just go with more pitchers in a longer series. So one of these guys obviously won't be on the roster when it comes to the NLDS. But I'll say something about these guys, these Wilsons and Stevensons and Clemenses and Sosas of the world. They've come up big this year. I mean, in a lot of games this year, these guys have really contributed. In some cases, actually won games for the Phillies. Big hits, big plays in the outfield. So would suck for one of these guys to not be on the team, going into a pretty important series, but that's life. That's just the way it
Yeah,
is. And
I mean, they also came up big, in you're talking about moments of a
yeah, big moments.
62 game season. Like Sosa's of the world completely fell off the earth the last 2 months of the season, coming back from the IL, where he was. I mean, when
It was big when
Turner
Turner
was
was out.
out, yeah, when Turner was out, he. So I'm saying, like, to say that, yeah, and to your point, it's more of a shame that they're going to not one won't make a roster opposed to one really contributing in the playoffs.
And really,
Yeah,
it's only for one series here because neither of them are going to play once, for NLCS or World Series. They're both going to be off because it's
yeah.
12
Barring
guys,
an injury or somebody.
barring injury, of course. Yeah. Um, so I guess how about pitchers now? So if you need to get to 13 pitchers, would that include Turnbull? Because if I count up, Turnbull would be 12, and then for 13 and 14, you would have either Allard, however you say his name, Gilbert, or Lazar.
Well, what's the status here with Turnbull? I mean, if there is a way that you can get him like in a game before the end of the season, because I know he was pitching in the minors
Yeah.
this week. Get him in a major league game before these last 3 games are done. See how he looks. That's probably the guy I'd rather have on the staff than these other three guys you just mentioned.
Well, he would only be 12. So
Yeah.
You got to choose another
So-
one of those.
So let me ask you a question, Jason. Then, what's the point of carrying the 13th pitcher if, like, in which situation is Giles or whatever his name was out there? When do they put? Is it just a mop up inning so you don't have to use a bullpen in the game that got out of hand? Like,
it's
what's the point of having
it's
that guy
but it's
opposed to a
also
position?
remember extra innings in the playoffs is not the garbage of putting somebody on second base. Like you could legitimately have a 17 inning
Mhm.
extra inning game, which is why everybody's just like, oh, he didn't want Walker to pitch last year and all. Part of it was that, but part of it was he was being kept as your emergency guy. If you get to the 12th inning and now you're out of pitchers, he's got to be in for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? So that's the importance of these guys.
So you were saying it would be 14 they would carry in the championship series?
Yep.
All right. I mean, I'm just looking at the ESPN now. They have 14 pitchers listed. I mean, I would.
Walker's not making it, so if Walker's in there, you got to take him out.
Well, I mean, he's on there. So he'd be one of the 14. I mean, if Turnbull comes back, I don't see why you have Allard on the thing. I mean, they list him as a starter. He can probably do both, but I would put Turnbull in for him, and then.
But does Turnbull have enough bottom in him right now to be able to pitch?
I mean,
4 or 5 innings?
that's gonna be the question. I mean, Allard's not giving you anything right now. He hasn't had a good start in a while. I mean, they have plenty of lefties in the bullpen, even without him. You still have Alvarado, Banks. This 14 includes Gilbert if you leave him in there, and Strom. So those are lefties. Did Turnbull pitch yet? I'm looking at the thing now. It says starts rehab on Sunday at Lehigh Valley, but I don't know if that was last week because Lehigh Valley
Yeah, it
season
was
pretty
last
much
week.
got to be.
He pitched already.
He did, okay. Because
Yeah.
they got to be, their season's got to be ending soon too, right?
It's over.
Yeah.
Their season's over. The minor league seasons are over, so they're done.
I mean, I think honestly, like, I think because you can't count on him for like to start a game, certainly, or whatever. Maybe they do end up keeping Walker on the 14. I don't know. But I would.
That would be. You might as well put Cody Clemens in. Like he.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Put him in the pitch.
Which two pitchers am I taking off of this and then adding in two others other than Turnbull? That's what I don't see them doing.
I mean, any of those other names are better than Walker at this point. Walker's got a 7 point something ERA. Like he's.
So then you'd swap out Walker for Turnbull, and that would be the only move.
We need another guy to get to 13. You need another guy to get to 14.
Well, I mean, so here I know we're not looking at the same thing. So that's
Gilbert. So you're counting Gilbert.
Here's the 14 ESPN has listed: Allard, Alvarado, Banks, Estevez, Gilbert, Hoffman, Kirkring, Nola, Ruiz, Sanchez, Strom, Suarez, Walker, Wheeler.
Okay, so Walker's going to be gone. So
take Walker out, put Turnbull in. That's 14, and maybe that's it.
That counts Allard.
Yeah,
and you said Gilbert as well, right?
Gilbert's on here. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's that's going to be your 14.
I mean, if the number is going to be 14, that's what I would do. Swap Walker out for Turnbull.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
it probably makes sense.
Yeah, if you're going that any of those last two guys, the Gilberts, the Allards, it's either an extra inning game or you're in big trouble, and you don't want to use you don't want to use anybody, because they're either blowing a team out or they're getting blown out. So
it won't be that. Yeah, for sure.
All right, we'll save it for next week. I don't think we just want to do a little quick roster talk. We'll by Thursday I guess we won't know the opponent. I don't know when the series all wraps up.
There's a chance if it's a sweep. It's only a 3-game series, so if
I mean, at least we'll know who we're not playing out of the 4. Yeah, I mean,
we'll have it down to 2 teams.
Two teams, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it for Thursday to really talk a little bit, more about the Phillies and their chances, and we'll see how they handle this bye week as far as simulation games. And I definitely think rest is going to be probably top of mind. and we'll know what seeding they have officially. All right, let's move into the NFL segment, specifically around the Eagles. As always, we always start with a recap of the game prior. So it was Eagles Saints. Um, I don't think any of us picked the Eagles. I had the Eagles to cover the spread, so I had it as a close game, but I did have the Saints. I had it as a high scoring game. I think pretty much everybody might have had a
Yeah.
high scoring game. So it didn't really turn out how we thought. But that's the NFL today. I mean, it's always usually the opposite of whatever you think it's going to be. Mika, I went to you first to preview the game. I'll go to you first to recap it, as they are your two teams.
Two teams. So, look, the Saints certainly could have won the game, but the Eagles deserve to win the game. That's the way I look at the result. I was a little dumbfounded by the decisions not to take the points, the Eagles, when they were in field goal range, and could have kicked 2 field goals to score 6 points, but instead opted to kick a 60-yard field goal, giving the Saints some really good field position, which allowed the Saints to score their first touchdown and go ahead. But the big differences to me in this game were, and I wrote these notes down, so I'll read through them. So after the block punt in the second quarter, the Saints elect to go for it on fourth down, fourth and short, the Eagles 18. They get stopped. Kamara gets stopped. I think that was huge. That was a missed point opportunity
Wasn't
there.
that the fourth
They didn't
quarter?
challenge it. That was the second quarter that happened. The block punt.
Block punt was second.
I believe it was the second quarter. Yep. And then, of course, after Barkley run for TD was obviously big. Barkley killed them in the second half. The injury to Eric McCoy earlier in the first half really had an effect on the Saints' offensive line. He's basically their most experienced player on the line. He's basically the Saints' Jason Kelsey. And right after that, the Eagles started getting pressure, especially up the middle with him out. I think that was huge. So the Saints score on the possession after the missed field goal, but they did not get the 2-point conversion. So you wonder if the Eagles go for two when they scored to go up three, because maybe if it was however many point game it was, maybe the Eagles just go for one and they tie it at 14-14. That missed 2-point conversion was big. And of course, the biggest play of the game, which was the Goddard pass. He runs that shallow cross. The Eagles wide receiver kind of runs into, they're not really a pick because he averted him, but he runs into the safety there, and no one's there to cover him.
Well,
And I don't know
The
how
Saints banged into each other. The Saints.
they banged into each other, yeah, but the Eagle wide receiver was also running the opposite cross a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
Yeah,
know.
well, no. Actually, if you watch the play, the route Dotson's supposed to take is straight across. He cuts through the two Saints guys, and that's what causes the pick
Yeah.
Yeah.
to happen. So it was really, I mean, as bad as Dotson's been, that was actually a pretty heads up play on his part.
Yeah, 'cause I think
And
that's
he
designed. That's
was
designed to get two
hurting.
guys to cross, and they ended up having Saints had three guys collide in the middle there because
It was completely ridiculous and unacceptable. He's the only guy on the field at that point that you have to worry about there. He's killing you. And the defenders run into each other, and he goes for 50, 60 yards, and they score shortly after that. On the Eagles side, look, the Eagles brought some pressure up the middle, like I was talking about when McCoy got hurt. Carr's not good when he gets pressure, and he was not good for basically most of that game. The Eagles dominated the game on both lines. It didn't quite show on the scoreboard because, Hurts throws an interception in the end zone and he fumbles and, gives the ball away twice. And that's a big reason why they didn't score as many points as they should have. But the Saints D got some pressure, got a few sacks, but the two big plays were the big difference. The Barkley run, the Goddard catch, and of course the interception in the fourth quarter by Blankenship, and that's it. So overall, do I think the Eagles played well? I mean, I think they played well enough to win the game. I think the Saints did not play well, especially offensively. And look, the Eagles dominated that second half. They had dominated possession. They were good on third down. Hurts made a couple of really good throws, and with Devontae Smith going out, I think it was a pretty impressive showing in the second half by Hurts, but he still has to stop giving the ball away, and that could have cost him the game.
Yeah, Jason, what do you think?
I mean, I don't think Hurts played well at all, but I thought the Eagles dominated the game, like Meeker said. Carter was absolutely dominant. Davis played well, but I think, like Meeker mentioned, once the Saints center got knocked out of the game, that was huge. That was really, really big. And I think it's going to affect the Saints going forward. But anyway, Carr was terrible because he was under pressure. Like we mentioned last week, when Carr is under pressure, he's terrible. When he's not, he's okay. He's pretty good. So Eagles' offense was good. Hurts was not. Like you can't turn the ball over like he does. You can't miss guys. He was inaccurate. You know my thoughts.
Second half, he was pretty good.
He
Though.
was
The second half.
inaccurate. He was throwing balls behind guys that were guys had to stop and make catches behind them. He was bad. And then Sirianni before the half, I don't understand. I mean, Tommy and I
Yeah,
were
I
on
wanted to
that.
get in. I wanted to get
Yeah.
into that as
Um,
well because I mean I
because
defend Sirianni a lot, but
yeah, I mean, if you get it, you got one play. Unless you're trying to score on that play, which you're
I,
not going to score on that play. Like if you're trying to score on a play, throw the ball.
How
You're
many?
not.
How
I
much
think
that
they
mean?
thought
9
they
seconds
might
left?
catch him by surprise. The score, I honest to God, I don't know what it's
It's
How
indefensible.
many
possible,
seconds
but
were on the clock at the time? Was it like 10 seconds, 9 seconds?
it was
They
like
had 10 seconds
15 or
left
something.
after the play, I
Yeah, it was
think,
like
which means
15.
there's probably 14 or 15
Yeah.
seconds.
Yes,
So
ridiculous.
if they're trying to score on that play, then you throw it. You're not. I mean, odds are Barkley's not going to break it going, around the end. So I don't know what he did, and I think Sirianni's a clown, but I'll still defend. We won't get into that again, but I'll defend what he did last week against Atlanta. But um, the Eagles dominated the game. They didn't dominate the scoreboard, and I think mostly it's because of Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, not too much to add on my part. I think, I mean, the turnovers. The Eagles haven't won the turnover battle since they played KC in week. I don't know what was that 6 or 7 of last
Because of
year.
Hurts. Because of Hurts.
It's like 30.
But yeah, I mean, and the fact that last year they didn't win many games after that, but they're 2-1 this year despite that. Um, I just you can't win in the NFL when you're turning the ball over, especially red zone turnover. I mean, they were across the 50-yard line. Like, I mean, it seemed like the entire every possession, and then
They had 9 possessions in the whole game. Their last 8 possessions, they crossed the 50-yard line.
well, that's why it seemed like they were across the 50-yard line for the game because they were. I mean, and that's on Hurt. The fumble, like the guy rushes him from the right tackle, the right end rushes him. He gets by that guy, or he runs out of the pocket. That guy didn't get blocked. So what does Hurts think that guy quit on the? Okay, he's done with the play now since I moved out of the pocket. But like the guy's still behind you. Like it's like he forgot about that guy. I just don't,
Yeah.
And what's the thing is too, and I'll let Chalky talk is, and I said it. I think his rookie year, well, his second, I guess wouldn't have been his rookie year, his second year, where I said I think Hurts is going to break the record in turnovers because in college he was a turnover machine. And what did he do? He went to the Super Bowl, almost won a Super Bowl, just to spit it in my face. But that was an anomaly. That 1 year is the only year he's protected the football. In college, he didn't protect the ball. His rookie season, where he only played 3 or 4 games, he turned the ball over a lot. 22, he was exceptional in that field, in that aspect. And then 23, he was terrible at it. And to start this season, he's terrible. So like the notion of us keep saying, well, he needs to get better at it. He needs to get better at it. I don't think he's capable to get better. This
No.
is what he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to make plays, but he's going to turn the ball over as well.
Before, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Before Tommy talks, that play you're talking about, he's holding the ball like basically right over here, running the ball, with one hand on it. You have to be a running back at that point because that pressure is coming after you. I texted Jason. I said, like, the guy doesn't sense the pressure from the backside, just like you said. He just ran out of the pocket. These guys are still chasing after him, and he's holding the ball with his right hand just like that. I mean, these are the reasons why he fumbles all the time because he can run the ball, but he doesn't turn into a running back and protect the ball in situations like that. We've seen that more than once. the thing is, the Saints didn't capitalize on that, and that's the reason why the Eagles won the game, because they didn't.
Yeah,
capitalize.
I mean, the Saints, the Fangio completely outcoached the Saints offensive coach. I mean, I think I heard that he employed the same defense that Belichick ran against the Rams in the Super Bowl, where it was like, what's that, a 6-man front, whatever. Basically, it stops that the
Yeah.
run, and he forces the pass, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, and it worked to a T. And but yeah, I just don't see how it's sustainable over the course of a year. Um, and Jason said it last year, and he ultimately ended up being right, where they lost 7 in a row because of it. And now that was a perfect storm of the defense. Also, was terrible, but the defense was terrible the first 2 games. So who knows what they are? Chalky.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were conflating his rookie year with his actual first year as a starter, Tom, but he had that 2021 as a full year as a starter, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So, not
How many
impressive.
fumbles?
4 fumbles, 1 lost in 21.
4 fumbles.
So, not.
But I think in that brief time he quarterbacked.
He had 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in like the couple games he played.
Well, I don't care about the interceptions.
The year before.
I mean, the touchdowns. I'm not comparing touchdowns.
No, I'm just saying the ratio is not good regardless. But I mean, if you had 50 touchdowns, 15 interceptions,
because he still could throw it.
You live with
he
that.
still scores a lot.
I think what happened there was like they were the best offense. So the off season, all the defensive coordinators said, "All right, how do we stop this offense?" And specifically Hurts.
Yeah. So
put him in situations that he's forced to make decisions.
Right.
Well, I mean, go back to the fumble. I mean, the fumble aggravated me more than the interception because, like Meek was saying, the fumble, it was a 2nd and 10. He gets pushed out to his left, which is where he's not comfortable. It's 2nd and 10. You don't need to force a play. Tuck it, run. He could have, if he would have just run with it, he would have got positive yardage there. Now, of course, I think the next 4 or 5 times he got forced out to his left, he made decent plays because he tucked it and ran a couple times. And I think once or twice when it was 3rd down, he had to make a play. He actually got the first down or made a throw. But, he's got to know that the left side is his weak side. So that's a play there. Don't leave the ball out there. Once you break, tuck it, run, and keep it moving there. So the interception was not good. The throw itself was okay, but it just wasn't the right throw to make because Smith is not a physical receiver that's going to box out the safety, and Matthew is a ball hawk. So if that's A.J. Brown against somebody else, that's a touchdown. With Smith in that situation, at best, you're getting a pass broken up. At worst, it's an interception. Your odds of getting a touchdown there are pretty slim unless Matthew falls down. But he's going to outmuscle Smith for the ball if it's that situation. So shouldn't have went there with the throw, and now Sirianni says that's his fault for not telling him don't throw that ball in that situation, which you shouldn't have to do for your quarterback. But maybe that's the answer of how he stopped.
Bottom line is,
I don't know.
And I called it before the play. I was with my brother, and I said it was 3rd. I think it was 3rd. I said, "Oh, here's a play. He's going to force a play to Devontae Smith because he's the only. It's going to be his first read." And he's the guy he trusts. So regardless if he's open, he's going to force the throw. And that's what he did. He has no ability to look at another receiver that's not designed in like the initial design. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's why Goddard don't get the ball until last game when they actually call plays for him, because he never gets to that progression.
Yeah, so just to go over a couple other things, the block punt, we were both wrong. It was actually the end of the 3rd quarter, so almost 4th, but and they snapped the ball with 14 seconds left on that 4th down play. So Sirianni said he thought he would get 2 plays. I don't know how he thought he was going to get 2 plays. That would have been very rare.
They only have 1 timeout.
I know. I have no idea. So that's the one. I mean, certainly that's the decision I would give him crap for. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the one where he went for it at the start of the 2nd half on that drive, somebody posted that the analytics for going for it and not getting it, your win percentage was still higher than kicking the field goal there, which didn't seem to make sense. But so if you believe that, then that was the right call to make. But I think that's where is that where they caught the guys on camera in the stands, the Eagles fans saying like, what the F is he doing or whatever? Look, they 8 times across the 50-yard line and you get 15 points. That's not good. It was enough to win, and Goddard didn't get in the end zone, but he had a historic game for a tight end. There's only 6 times in NFL history a tight end has gotten 10 catches, 170 yards. And for all the mistakes Hurts made, everybody gave him credit for checking into that play that got the long throw or long run from Goddard on the last drive. So I guess give him a little credit for that. But the defense kept him in the game. Carter, maybe his best game as a pro. I wasn't thrilled with some of the antics after the game, but they were saying that was because they're still mad about Smith getting a dirty hit on him. I don't know. But look, Brandon Graham found the founding youth for one game. You still got nothing out of Huff. You really didn't hear Sweat. You're not going to win games if these guys aren't coming to play. And look, the Saints offensive line was playing better than expected. Like you said, Meeker and Jason, you said you watched the thing and they destroyed Dallas. But once the center went, they were probably playing above grade, above their league as it was. But then once their center goes out, that all went out the window. So give the Eagles credit for taking advantage of it. The cornerbacks played well. Bond had another really good game. But, the Saints offensive line went from overachievers to trash in one play, essentially. So, look, you won a game without your best receiver and without your best lineman now because Johnson got hurt. Take that, but not a lot of great things to take away that makes you really confident about moving forward, in my opinion.
Who was on Shaheed on that throw that he had a step, but he short he threw it a little bit behind them. That was a big play in the game
I
too.
think
Yeah,
Early.
it was like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10.
Was that Mitchell?
Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, Mitchell.
mean-
Mitchell. If you watch, he was playing the sticks a little bit on that, and he got caught. And it would have taken a nice pass, but I think he should have caught it. I mean, it kind of hit him, But I mean, you can always look at that in every game.
wasn't
Yeah,
a good-
it's so. I mean, I don't want to get too into it because we'll start to cover it with the Bucks game, but and I think everybody alluded to, but yeah, did the Eagles beat a good Saints team? Does anybody think they beat a good team? You would be the best.
I mean, they beat a team that was good going into the game. They beat a team that was
No, they beat a 2-0. They beat a team that's record was 2-0.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
beat a
Like
good team.
whatever you want to call it, like that was hot going into the game. I mean, how hot can you be when it's only two games into the season? But I mean, I think another big thing too is like they were in 3rd and short at least 3 or 4 times where they couldn't get the first down, and that's kind of a spot for Taysom Hill. So not having Taysom Hill on the team hurts when you
That
have
probably
that.
hurt them. That probably hurt the Saints.
Yeah. So does the game change because you're getting those first downs when you're not getting them? Of course, that changes a lot. So again, could they have won the game? Yes. Should they have won the game? No, because they were still dominated, throughout the game by the Eagles. So what it taught me was, they still have many problems, just like many of these NFL teams right now. I mean, who is a really dominant football team going into week 4? I'm not coming up with a whole lot of teams, So I think there's
When you
just
say
a lot
they,
of,
who are you talking about? They.
what's that? Both of them, really. I'm talking about both the Eagles and the Saints. Like, what are they just amongst the masses of these teams that we just don't know whether they're really good or really not so good?
That's a good question because that leads into my second part of the question. So, a lot of these teams that right now, like the Niners, look like they're middle of the road. Detroit's looking like, but I can look at the Niners and say they're missing McCaffrey. They have this or that to get to where they want to be. Detroit, like they really haven't gotten Laporta going yet. You could pinpoint things that they're going to get better. Kansas City has Mahomes. Like when you look at the Eagles and you say they're middle of the road right now, which they are, do they have, what do you see that they have the ability to improve on?
Yeah.
So we know what they can improve on, but can they? Because do they have the players to do it? At the positions to get to that elite level. I mean, that's the question, Jason.
I don't think so. I mean, I'll start right at the top with your quarterback. I don't think he's good enough. I think he's below average. You're not winning with Jalen Hurts. And I still don't believe in the defense. Like, I think the secondary's fine. I think Carter's great. I don't see
We
much
said
else.
the defense line. Do we at this point think Huff is just having trouble adapting to his role with the Eagles, or do we
Wow.
think Nolan Smith, does he look like a guy
I
that can
think he
play?
stinks. I think he just stinks. Huff maybe he's having trouble right now. I don't know. I don't think Nolan Smith could play.
And Chalky said that Brandon Graham played the game. Do we see Brandon Graham getting better as the
That's your
season goes
best,
on?
if that's your best pass rusher, you're in
Yeah.
trouble.
Right, he's
I
only
mean,
going to get worse, right? As
your
the
best
season
pass
goes
rusher
on.
has been Jalen Carter, and he doesn't have a sack, but he's getting pressure up the middle. And Jordan Davis even got a sack. Now, a couple people I saw said Smith actually had a decent game. I didn't watch him like that. He didn't pick up any sacks, so I can't say whether that's the truth or not. I mean, I think we've seen it the last 2 weeks. This team is a middling team at best without AJ Brown. You have no chance of being an elite team without AJ Brown. He'll come back at some point, but the offense is clearly not the same. Uh, all the mistakes that Hurts made last year and that he made in the first game this year, they were still putting up 30 points a game with AJ Brown in the lineup. He's a difference maker, whether he's getting the ball all the time or not. To be elite, I mean, Hurts has to not turn the ball over. He doesn't have to make the best throw all the time, but you can't take points off the board and you can't give the other team points by bad decisions. If you can cut back on the turnovers, you may have a shot. That's your only shot. Now, I'm not going to go as far as say Hurts is below average because I don't think he's the 17th or worst best quarterback in the league, but he's dead in the middle
I think
of an average
totally
median
think he
group
is.
of quarterbacks. What's that?
I totally think he's. I can name 16 quarterbacks better than Jalen Hurts.
All right, go for it.
Okay, I'll take Prescott over Hurts.
Yep, I'll give you
I'll
Prescott.
take Prescott over Hurts.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's go to.
I mean,
I'll take Jared Goff.
I have 10 absolute definite, and then it's a mix.
Okay.
But
I'll take Jared Goff over Hurts.
Yep.
At this point. Okay. I'll take Stafford.
Yep.
I'll take Purdy.
Yep.
Okay. I won't take Geno Smith.
Mahomes.
I won't take Murray. What do you got, 6?
Well,
if
Mahomes,
you guys-
Allen,
You've got 4
Burrows,
so far.
Of course, Allen, Burrow, Mahomes,
Yeah.
of
5, 6,
course,
7.
Rodgers.
of course, Rodgers.
Give you Rodgers 8.
Let me go.
Herbert.
Absolutely Herbert.
See, I'm not putting Herbert there right now.
Oh,
but
come on.
You could. Last week
Come
we were
on.
out on him, and now, but okay, 9.
Well, I'm definitely out on Hurts.
Stroud 10.
Stroud, right?
So you
So
got
how
10.
many we got? 10.
That's 10.
Okay.
That's about where it
But I think
gets.
Yeah,
I
then
think
you
that's
got
where it
then
is.
you got the rookies.
I think that's where it is.
You got rookies.
You got rookies that could get better. Okay, Daniels has had better games, but I can't. He's had 2 games. I can't
All
put
right,
him
so
ahead
let me,
yet.
let me. I guess change.
Lamar Jackson, you forgot.
Who?
If you go Lamar,
I
that's
guess.
11.
I'm not a fan of Lamar Jackson, but I guess.
But he's better.
I mean, look, we don't have to get into everything. I think Hurts is squarely in that middle, whether he's number 16 or 17 or in the 12 to 20 group of quarterbacks.
But is he good enough to win? Like, is he good enough to win?
He's good enough to win some games.
He's not good enough to put the team on his back on a consistent basis.
He's
week
good
after
enough to
week.
win some games in a 16-game season.
Can
But
you-
for him to have to win 3, what is it at this point? 3 games, 3 or 4 consecutive games in a playoff. That means he's not making his mistakes. No, I don't think he's capable to do that.
I don't
I
either.
don't.
You got Jordan Love. Too.
Is he possible? Well,
Jordan Love's another one, correct.
Love is in that middle mix for me. Love had one season that wasn't as good as Hurts' best season. That's all we have to go on. So he could definitely end up being better, but I don't think you can definitively say.
Yeah, but Hurts, we can agree that Hurts' best season was literally a 50-50 mix of pass and run.
I mean, look,
it's not
at this point, it's an outlier because it was, 21 and 23 are very similar. Start to 24 is similar to those than it is 22. So that's
you just not. But the running, his best game this year is because he ran right against the lane. Like the running isn't sustainable. It's not going to be sustainable in the playoffs. It's not sustainable.
No, I mean, so the blueprint for 22 was they got up early. And they didn't have to throw the ball as much, and the defense was a lot better than it has been in 21, 23, or except for this last game.
I mean, they did play like a historically bad schedule.
Well, the schedule this year is worse than that. They're lower ranked. I don't think they're a better team right now than they were in 22, obviously. I mean, it would be is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No, not the way he's playing. I mean, he's not going to win 33 to 30 games for 3 or 4 games in a row in a playoff if it comes to that. If the defense is actually half decent and can hold a team to 17 points, yeah, they could get the
I
30
mean,
points like they did.
but you're like what your ceiling is if a defense can hold a team to 17 points. I can get anybody that can do that though.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. I mean, we're talking about guys.
Well, there's a
that
lot
are
of
gonna
quarterbacks
win
in this league
football
right now
games.
that can't get their team to 17
Well,
points.
well, that's
Of
the
course.
thing. You just hit it right on the head. It's a subpar quarterback
Yeah.
league.
Me
Right.
saying Hurts is an average, I have him in an average group is not saying he's so great, like he's like really great. It's that it's a reflective of the league in general. Like there's not a lot of great
So
quarterbacks.
listen, we said at the beginning, at least I did. I don't know if you guys agreed, but offensively, from a roster construction point of view, this was probably the best roster the Eagles have had in a really long time. So there is no excuse at this point from offensive point of view.
Wait,
Defensively, they,
best roster, not defensively.
no, offensively, this was the
Offensively.
best roster. I mean, Jalen Hurts doesn't play defense. So we're talking about the offensive roster construction. Probably with adding Saquon and who they already had, granted, Kelsey's not on the team anymore and they had to replace him. But from a skill position point of view, that's probably the best roster
Skill position.
Yes.
an Eagles quarterback has had, maybe in our lifetime, to be honest. And there's no excuses for that. So, look, you have Saquon, you have the roster. It's if he is going to come down to games, I think, where the quarterback does have to win a game for you here and there, and you see Mahomes do that constantly. You see Josh Allen do that constantly. The question is, can Hurts do that? Can he win 2 or 3 games for you in crunch time? And that might be the difference between them being, say, an 11-6 team versus a 9-8 team. Can he do it? It's going to come down to that.
I mean, you're also you're to the point where with you have his turnovers, which are giving up how many possessions to a game, 2 or 3 game. Then you got Sirianni giving up points, 2 possessions, 3 possessions a game. I mean, the fact that they have 2 wins is pretty insane. I don't know if it goes down to how poorly. I mean, the Packers were not very good, and the Saints weren't very good in the games that they played. Now you got to give the Eagles credit that they could have caused it, but I mean, with all those possessions that you're just giving up, it's all a miracle they even have 2 wins.
They're a razor thin amount away from being 0-3 or 3-0. I mean, that's the way the league is. One play here or there, and I mean, it's like look at the 3-0 teams in the NFC. If the Eagles were 3-0, like none of these teams to me yet are that good. Seattle's 3-0 beating bad teams. Minnesota's beating a couple of good teams, but Sam Darnold has never been a good quarterback in how many years in the league, so he's got to give me a full season before I believe that. Minnesota's got a great defense, though.
I mean, just to your point, and I have a statistic. The teams that are 3-0, 3 of them. How many teams are 3-0? Is it just 3 now?
I
Buffalo,
believe it's
Kansas
4.
City,
4,
Seattle,
Kansas City. Well, 3 of the 4 are underdogs.
5. I'm sorry, 5.
5. So 3 of the 5 3-0 teams are underdogs this week.
Yeah.
So that goes to show you, what Vegas thinks of some of these 3-0 teams. All right, quickly now, let's move to the Eagles-Bucs. Quick talk on that, and then a prediction. Jason, where do you got the game this Sunday?
Yeah, I looked at the points per play, yards per point. They're pretty even with the teams. I just think it's an injury. It's an injury game for me. Obviously Brown, Smith, and Johnson are most likely not going to play because they got the bye next week. So you would think that they're going to not push any of those guys.
They didn't practice today.
I mean, if it's me and you have a bye next week, I'm not pushing them to play. And then on the other end, you got Vita Vea for Tampa Bay, who is going to be huge in this game because if he plays, he's going to be the run stopper in a game where you would think that the Eagles are going to, feed Barkley and have Hurts running around a ton. So obviously it's a revenge game for the Eagles. I don't think the Bucs are very good. This might be a cop out, but I'm basing my pick on Vita Vea, right? If Vita Vea plays, I think the Bucs are going to win. If he doesn't, I think the Eagles are going to win. So I'll say 23-20 Bucs if Vita Vea is in there, and it's 23-20 Eagles if he don't play.
Yeah, it was a cop out. Chalky, what about you?
So I mean, preseason, I've begrudgingly picked the Bucks to win the division. I think they're a better team than the Saints, regardless of what the Saints have done so far. I think it's their second home game in a row for the Bucks. Eagles' second road game in a row. Missing Brown, Smith, and Johnson. It's just, and I know Tim Bay's not going to have Winfield, and they have some guys banged up, but they're all pretty much going to play. Unless Mayfield turns the ball over a lot, I can't see them. I just don't think they're going to have enough weapons on offense to win the game unless they get a pick six. I'm going to say 24-22 Tampa because Sirianni kicks a lot of field goals this week because people gave him a hard time.
How about you, Meeker?
I agree with Jason's Vita Vea point. I mean, I think that's a huge part of whether the Bucks win or lose the game. They had big issues defending a running quarterback last week in Bo Nix, even though he didn't throw the ball very well, but he did run the ball really well. And the Bucks have having some issues on their offensive line. They gave up 7 sacks last week. They haven't gotten a sack in 2 weeks. But and their offense sputtered last week against the Denver defense. They don't stop the run well, and I think the Eagles are going to run a lot in this game, obviously because of Smith and Brown being out. But I don't think it's enough. I think the Bucks win the game in a kind of low-scoring game, 22-18. And I kind of went back and forth on it. I don't think that it's beyond possible that the Eagles win this game for sure, but I think the injuries play a big factor. The offense is going to struggle a little bit, but I think Barkley's going to have a big game for sure. They're going to feed him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I can't necessarily disagree with what anybody said. I think, I said it last week with the Eagles. I could see both teams winning the game. I said that last week, and ultimately I lean towards the Saints. I'm going to do the opposite this week. I will lean towards the Eagles winning, but I think it's going to be super close. More to what Meeker said, I think the pass blocking for the Bucks is horrific at this point. So I could see the Eagles maybe causing a couple turnovers. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think they're going to control the ground with Hurts and Barkley. To Chalky's point, I do think they're going to kick a lot of field goals because, I was able to call the first 3 plays of the Eagles. I said first play they'll do some kind of read option to Barkley and either Hurts. Second play they'll force a play to Goddard because everybody complained Goddard. I mean, Sirianni listens to the radio and then just does whatever the fans bitch about it. I can't believe he's a coach in the NFL. It's kind of crazy.
He's very cringeworthy. Like I cringe.
He's a
with him.
clown.
Like,
I mean, to your point, like you said, he literally. I mean, he does what fans like. He's a clown.
he panders. He's a panderer.
Yeah, it's insane.
He's cringeworthy. He really is.
One
So
thing also, Tommy, is that the Hertz has had some trouble with Todd Bowles and his blitz packages.
yeah, although you can't, they beat him once last year in the beginning of the year, and he had trouble, and then they lost obviously. And last year, it's one of those things. How much of that the last 7 games do you believe? Like they were so bad the last 7 games. It's almost like you got to talk like it. Nobody's that bad. They weren't that bad. And then this year they've been good against the blitz. I mean, that's the one thing Hurts has done.
He's been better against the blitz. Sure.
As a team, they're doing it well. So, if Bowles goes with that philosophy, like I just blitz him, and I've been successful. Well, if the Eagles really did improve on that, that's going to be a detriment to the Bucs because what's Plan B? I don't know. But I have it 19-17. I think it falls right. It's 1.5 when I looked before the show. It was teetering between 2.5, 2, 1.5. I think kickoff it goes to about 2, and I see the Eagles winning 19-17, falling right on that number. But ultimately would not be surprised if it went either way. Low scoring and close game regardless. All right. Let's move into our picks. As always, turn it over to Jason to give some statistics before we make our picks.
Yep. So it was another under week. 6 over, 10 under last week. So in the season, it's 19 over, 27 under. Public was terrible last week. They were 5-11 with over unders. They were also 19 and 27. And again, the spread 6 and 10. The public, so they were 17 and 29 on the year. Let's do our picks. We'll start with Chalky. Chalky again went 3-0. He had the under in the Broncos and Bucks. He had the Steelers Chargers under, and he had the Texans Vikings under. So he won all three of them. Tommy was 2-1. We both crashed and burned on our best bet there with the Titans. That was not a good bet. So
Just to reiterate, we are 17-3 now with our best bets when they align.
well, not technically best bets, but when we both agree on a pick. So he did win with the Steelers, and he did win with the Lions,
which we had the same.
We did have the same. So we were 1-1 with our teams last week. Meeker went 2-1. He won with his best bet with the Bears Colts on Bears Colts under, right? Yes. So
we might have to start banning totals in this podcast because it's like you guys only win with the totals anymore.
Well,
he's never win with spread picks.
When every pick is a total, I don't know, but you should at least have one.
I thought this was a point. I didn't know when it became an over under podcast. But
it's because you can't trust any of these teams.
Meeker's Chiefs pick. Meeker and the referees kind of combined on that one.
And whoever the offensive coordinator?
Who's the offensive? That was a bad no call, but they did call the Chiefs for 3 penalties on that drive. One was a horse collar tackle, one was a defensive holding, and one was some other.
Atlanta should have covered Meeker. You should have lost.
Yeah, they would have had the ball at the 1. Plus, then what was that call? The jet sweep, the beach on it on 4th down. Oh my god!
Yeah,
they totally should have covered that game. But then he lost on his under with Vegas and Carolina. So he went 2-1. I had a bad week. I was 1-2. Already mentioned that awful Titans pick. Just terrible. And then the Lions won on that one. And then I lost on my under with the 49ers and Rams. So let's go to our records now. We'll do season records. So Chalky is 8-1 on the season. With a
How do you do the thumbs up thing? I can't find that thumbs up thing.
It's Apple.
Oh, you an Apple?
No.
That's
yeah.
Where's I don't know. If you just go like this, put your thumb up.
I don't know. Anyway, his profit's $651, 89% win percentage, 72% ROI. So Chalky is on fire. Meeker is second this year. He's 5-4, $53 profit, 56% win percentage, 6% ROI. He already mentioned his record last week. I'm 4-4, loss of $31, 50% win percentage, minus 4% ROI. Tommy's 4-5, loss of $129, 44% win percentage, minus 14% ROI. Our best bets, we're still pretty good with best bets this year. I'm 1-1. Tommy's 2-1. Chalky's 3-0. Meeker's 2-1. So we're 8-3 on best bets. And our overall stats. So I'm 67-46, profit of 1,478, 59% win percentage, 13% ROI. Tommy is 57-52, profit of $218, 52% win percentage, 2% ROI. Chalky is one game below 500 now. He's 57-58, loss of 548, 49.5% win percentage, minus 5% ROI. Meeker is also one game below 500, 55-56, loss of $633, 49.5, whatever it is, win percentage, 6%, minus 6% ROI. We are now showing really good numbers as a podcast. We are 236-212, profit of 516, 53% win percentage, 1.2% ROI.
Okay, time for picks. So we'll randomly select who's going to be first. This time we'll go by, I guess, age. So I'll just randomly say whoever the second oldest is on this podcast will go first, and that's Chalky.
Actually, he's third oldest.
Second youngest. I messed that up. Second youngest. Chalky, you're up. Come on.
So
how many unders you got this week?
I actually have 2 sides that I like this week.
There we go.
But I'm playing 3 totals. I'll give you the 2 sides later if nobody else picks them. I don't want to talk anybody off them. Top bet is going to be under 40 in the Steelers Colts game. That's minus 110. Second bet is going to be an over 46 minus 108 in the Seahawks Lions game. And the third is going to be an under as well, under 40 in the KC Los Angeles game. That's under 40 minus 110.
Okay, Maker.
Me and Chalky have the same best bet.
I would
Oh,
like
boy.
I would like to take one of my sides
Oh,
now
boy.
and put it back in.
I can switch it out so it's not our best bet.
No, you
so
don't
it
switch
doesn't-
anything.
our
You
best
just
bet.
go with exactly what your bets you have written down.
I got under 40. Indy and Pittsburgh. That is my best bet, minus 110. I'm going to go with an over as well as my second bet, and I'm going over 46.5 in Buffalo, Baltimore.
Chalky, are you
That's
checking these? Because Meeker usually is.
So the
You already
110
mentioned
was correct because I had that. So Baltimore and Buffalo is
112.
46 and a half, 112 over. Yep, that's correct.
Minus 112. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in that game. And I'm going to go back to the same game with my Indy Pittsburgh, and I'm going to take the Colts plus 1.5 at home as a home dog against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh plays the Cowboys next week. They might be looking past this game. You know, none of these teams could score, but I think that Indy.
Why
can
would
win
they
the
look
game.
past it for the Cowboys? Could you?
Just because it's a Cowboys. Just because. You know, it's just a game that they're more. I just think that it's a game that it's been.
I mean,
Even though a
50
conference
years
game means
of a
much more in
rivalry?
terms of
Is it
seeding and
because
tie breaking and everything.
Roger Staubach and Terry Bradshaw of 45
That's
years
it's
ago?
still a
or is it-
rivalry. However you look at it.
I'm gonna get shirts made that say "just because."
It's
Just
just because
because.
meaning that you asked why would they be looking at because it's the Cowboys.
The Cowboys
Because
are a
that's a
horrific
pretty big
team.
rival.
It's not even like the Cowboys are 3-0. Like the
It's
Cowboys
still
are
the
terrible.
Cowboys. It's still the Cowboys.
Just because.
Chalky, what was it? Minus what?
108.
Okay.
Oh, that was a good.
I don't know why it's funny. Those teams, it's a rivalry for like basically the whole year of the NFL.
It was
has
a
been in
rivalry when
existence.
Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach
It's
were in
still
the
a
league.
rivalry.
I get the players on Pittsburgh probably don't even know who Terry Bradshaw. Like,
No.
those guys
Yeah,
are
I mean, it would have been a better angle to say Johnny Unitas is still mad that Pittsburgh cut him when he was a rookie and the
Yeah,
Colts are going to come
yeah,
back
something
and
like
win.
that.
Like, that would have been a better angle than.
Well, everyone gets up for the Cowboys, even if they stink.
I don't think Mike
You know it.
Tomlin has his team look ahead ever, but go ahead.
All right. Well, my picks this week, just to start. I mean, I saw Jacksonville play possibly one of the worst games I've ever seen a football team play. They're a horrific team, and anybody who would pick them is insane. So my first pick is going to be Jacksonville plus 6.5, minus 112. Teams coming off of 30+ losses and are underdogs of 4 points or more are 89-50 against the spread of 68%. And that gets even higher when it's 35 more points. We talk about all the time the overinflation. Vegas has to overinflate a line when a team gets slaughtered because the public's going to hammer it. And right now, 76% are on Houston. My second pick is Chicago -3, minus 108. Team Rams came back 14 points down last week to come back. Teams coming off a 14-point comeback are 51-68 against the spread, where the Rams fit that bill, and there were some statistics that support it when it's specifically the Rams, etc. And then my final pick goes to what I said earlier, where you have 3-3-0 teams that are underdogs. That would be Baltimore -2.5. Chalky, sorry, I did not write the VIG down.
108.
-108. The teams that are 3-0 going into the fourth week are just 2-9 straight up and 3-7-1 against the spread when they are an underdog. And again, I don't like to just use stats. I like to kind of have a reason why. And if you think about it, that just goes to show you Vegas makes them an underdog because they don't believe that their 3-0 record is. The public, just because they're 3-0, thinks they're really good teams. So then they say, wait, a 3-0 team is an underdog? That doesn't make sense, and they bet. So that's the justification behind that pick. Jason?
Yep. So I didn't really have a favorite pick this week. I'm gonna by default list the Lions minus 3.5. I think it's minus 110
There's a lot of
as my
cop
best.
outs this week.
Well, I mean it's my best bet because I didn't really have a best bet, but
Mm.
Is it
I
just because?
I
Just
no, I have
because.
reasons. I don't. I think Seattle's a fraud. Okay. Now I do have some trepidations that Ragnow, the center for the Lions, probably isn't playing. That's a problem. And McDonald's defense, if you guys remember last year, Baltimore annihilated the Lions. So I don't know. I'm just going on that I think Seattle's a fraud. They're not a 3-0 team. I think the Lions are better than they. The Lions should have beat the Bucs. I mean, they dominated the Bucs. They should have won that game. So they probably should be 3-0. So that's my best bet. Tepit. My second pick. I thought people were going to think I was crazy for picking the Jaguars this week. The way they looked last week, but I got to go with the Jaguars plus 6.5. And it's kind of shady too that they're not making that line 7 or anything as bad as they look. You know what I mean? And they play these teams when they play each other. They play close games. Jacksonville and Houston. And usually the road team wins, I believe, in this series. So I like the Jaguars plus 6.5. Now my third pick, I was going back and forth because I like the Falcons to cover, but I think I like the under in that game better. So I'm going to take, and that was minus 112, right? The Jacksonville. I'm sorry. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. Um, I'm going to go with under in this Falcons Saints game. I don't see the Saints scoring a lot of points with that offense now that they got the centers out, and I think they were kind of fraudulent in the first 2 games anyway. Um, and the Falcons, I think they're gonna try to run the ball a little bit on the Saints. So I'm gonna go under 42 minus 110. And I'm sure what's going to happen now is the Falcons are going to cover and it's going to go over because that
Well,
would have
it's
been
up to 112 now.
is 112. Okay. Um, so that's my pick. Falcons Saints under 42 minus 112.
So my two sides would have been Green Bay -3 and Chicago -3.
My problem with Green Bay is, when Love comes back now, does the players kind of let up a little bit? You know what I mean? And I don't think the Vikings are a joke. I think the Vikings are good. I really think the Vikings are
I think
good.
the
Now,
Vikings
Yeah,
have
and
a
that
solid
was
defense. I'm looking at, there's no guarantee Love is playing just yet, and it's -3, and Vikings have 80% of the action so far. So that was just a contrarian, but
one of those 3-0 teams, but that's one I opted not to go with because there was a lot of like unknowns about that with Love and stuff. That's
yeah,
why
even if he plays, I think like Green, the players might let up a little bit. I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
possible. I mean, to me, it came across as one of those shady things. Like Vikings just beat San Francisco, who's a good team. They just beat Houston, who was a Super Bowl contender in some people's minds, and now they're an underdog on the road. It seemed
Yeah.
like they were trying to get him to go there, and that's where the public is right now. But they might be that good.
And before I
yeah.
forget, a source reached out to me and asked me, Meeker, to call you the KOD of the NFL,
What's that?
Kiss of
the
death.
kiss of death of the NFL. This is a reliable source who reached out to me, and he asked me to use that moniker for you. Now, I'm not gonna. I'm just telling you that the request was made for you to be called the KOD of the NFL.
Anytime the Dallas Cowboys are playing and I find a way to be that kiss of death, I try. So Tony Romo, when he he dropped that, when he dropped the
Did you
snap.
you had a bet on the Cowboys? I'm
Oh
thinking.
no! I
Oh.
didn't have a bet. I didn't have a bet. I was like, well, it's over. It's okay, man. Everything's good. And then he dropped it, and he romoed it, and he became romoed for the rest of for the rest of his life.
Gotcha.
Does that translate to teams that are looking forward towards Dallas that he's picking against, or is it only like a
I
Dallas?
think anything
Yeah,
NFL
anything.
related. His
Okay,
picks, his analysis, his
fair enough.
who he's
All
rooting
right.
for.
Does anybody have a pick for a bet for this week?
I'm putting first of all, I cost all you guys that bet last week, and I apologize for that. And for that, I did a ton of research this week. I actually have a couple guys I like, but I'm going with Aaron Jones to score against the Packers because they're going to try to get him a touchdown, I think, in that game. But I have other guys I really like too, but that's my touchdown bet this week.
Chalky.
Haven't looked into it quite yet.
I'm out of Eagles. They got too many guys hurt, so I'm not making a pick.
Oh, you can find somebody.
Dotson gets in this week, I guess.
How about a catch? I think he did have a catch.
He had one. I
So
think.
does
An
Huff
easy one.
does Huff record a statistic this week? Is that a bet? Will he get a pressure?
You don't have
I don't
any
think he-
statistics yet?
What kind of
don't
negative
think
are
he
there?
is.
Negative statistics? Are missed tackles
I
counted?
don't believe he has a statistic yet. No pressures, no nothing. No tackles. Britton Covey has more tackles than he does.
Yeah, well, won't be seeing
All
him
right.
for a while, but
Nah,
I think he's out too. I heard
6 weeks.
he's 6 weeks. He's
Broke
on
his
IR.
scapula. Yeah, broke his
that's
scapula.
trouble because he's a good punt returner. Who's going to return punts?
Cooper Dejean.
Dejean.
Oh,
Dejean.
Deshaun.
Yeah. Who I think he did that in college, right? So it's not like
Yes.
Yeah, he did. He
He did it last week for the one.
yeah,
one punt,
he
I
picked
think.
it up last week. I know. Yeah.
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 I mean, the ball security is always a problem. He'll be all right, but you just gotta hope he catches it. All right, episode 1.
Bryce Huff has
Go
one
for it.
tackle.
Oh, he does have a tackle. Oh, okay, good for him.
He's projected for 6 tackles, 6 assists this season right now on ESPN.
Money well spent. I mean, Reddick is gonna probably beat.
I hear how great Howie Roseman is, right? And yet you see like these draft picks that are terrible, and like these signings that are like, how great is he? That's a whole nother episode, I guess.
Episode maybe episode 132, but this was episode 126 of Broad Street Hustle. Catch you next week to start the MLB playoffs. Have a great night.
Now, last thing, I brought John in here. John, come on over here. Remember in spring training, the man said he wants his trophy. We're going to get it for him.